everybody, welcome back. Now, the BBC has come under fire yet again. This time, it's for telling children all about the controversial concept of white privilege. A page on the BBC's website has an article with the headline, White Privilege, what is it and how can it be used to help others? And further down the page, the BBC asked the question, how can I use my white privilege to help others? The suggestions from a Korean American called Courtney Ahn include teach other white folks the barriers to success for people of colour. There we go. Quite interesting, isn't it, that really? The BBC would put a very contested ideology out there, presented, it appears, as fact. There's quite a lot more to this story as well, though, because there is a very controversial individual called Kehinde Andrews who has written and said some things in terms of, like, white psychosis. Very controversial views. The kind of thing, frankly, that I think if anyone of a different race said about somebody else of another race, you would find yourself in very, very hot water. But now BBC Newsround is under fire for teaching white privilege as fact to children. And in no small part it is because of the ideologies that this individual puts out there. Joining me now is Dr. Alka Sehgal Cuthbert, who is the director of Don't Divide Us. Dr. Alka, thank you very, very much. Do you think the BBC should be teaching white privilege as basically a statement of fact?
No, of course it shouldn't. It's extremely divisive. It's anti-educational. If you have a look at the websites, it's at best there's very selective content on there from history, but most of it is nothing more than just pure assertion. And it seems the only academic they're giving a free and open platform to is Professor Andrews. He's a professor of Black Studies. And there's no opposing view offered at all. In fact, the very possibility that there might be a different view isn't even acknowledged on any of the Newsround websites. I mean, it's really quite unjustifiable, I think, in any terms.
So Kehinde Andrews is a professor of Black Studies at Birmingham City University, and he leads the Black Studies Association. He has released a video, which is on Newsround. Newsround have asked him to do a video, talking about what white privilege is. He says white privilege means not having to worry about racism. I would contest that slightly. He says, for me, white privilege is the benefits that you get from being white. If you're an ethnic minority, there are certain disadvantages you have. For example, you're more likely to be unemployed. White privilege is not having to deal with racism. He goes on. There's quite a lot of this. Do you think there's any truth to that?
No, I don't. Not the way that that's formulated. No, I mean, you know what the thing about never having to experience racism. Well, I mean, all I could just say is, so what? As an individual, no one will ever. You'll never experience what I experience, or vice versa. But you know, we can talk. We have language. We have all kinds of ways of communicating. And the kind of use, the flinging about of a single statistic, as if that incontrovertibly proves the existence of racism, is just silly. I mean, it wouldn't pass muster in a first-year sociology course. So it's incredible to think a professor or the BBC are using them in this way, really, and they're presenting that to children.
I've got five things here. I've got
college.
5 things here that kids are being told to do. And when I think back when I was younger, and I used to watch Newsround, or I used to digest some of the BBC's online content as a young child, right? I absolutely was not thinking critically at these ages. I would have looked at this and taken anything that I saw as absolute fact. Whether or not I acted on that was up to me, but I would have taken what they were saying to me as fact. They've gone, what should I do with my white privilege? So there you go, straight off the bat. Every single person who's white has got some form of privilege. That's what I would take away from that. Teach other white folks the barriers to success for people of colour. Promise to listen to and amplify the voices of people of colour. Be more than not racist. Be actively anti-racist. Confront racial injustices even when it's uncomfortable. There's obviously one more there as well. But that not racist, be actively anti-racist. Does the BBC have a duty to be telling children this kind of stuff, do you think?
No, it doesn't. Its duty is to educate, inform and entertain, to be impartial and to help understanding of the world. Presenting this material is not only presenting a false understanding of the world, it's presenting a really divisive ideology to very young children. We've had emails from parents whose children have come back from school, primary school, and recently there was one just the other day, and the parent saying her daughter doesn't want to be white because she's been told at school to be white is to belong to a group that kills black people. What kind of national public service funded by the public does, thinks that's okay to be putting out there?
When I look at, so I'm on the BBC website right now, the page that this is all on, okay, and I scroll down it, and it goes more on this story. Who was Malcolm X? And then watch our special programme on US protests and racism with a massive picture of George Floyd there as well. Are they giving out quite a skewed view here of potential reality when it comes to race relations and also events?
I think they really are, Patrick. I mean, and it kind of breaks my heart because when I think of, there are certainly instances you can pick out, as Andrews does on one of his things, race riots in Britain, and he talks about the 1919 killing of the black man in Liverpool and other riots. But what he doesn't say is during the exact same time, immigrants were arriving in Britain and were integrating and getting on very well with their lives in Sheffield and other places. There's historical evidence that supports that. He doesn't talk about how in during the Second World War, white working class people stood up with the black GIs to fight alongside them against their officers. So, there are so many, it is, or about slavery, who was it that brought the manumission of Frederick Douglass? It was the people of Rochdale, the Quakers who got together and organised that. So I think, to be impartial, you need to present a fuller historical picture.
Yeah, I mean,
That's not what they're getting.
There is literally on this page a link to the white privilege TikTok challenge. Seriously, with the phrase "white privilege is real" on it. So children accessing all of this will be confronted by a bloke called Kehinde Andrews, who is the professor of black studies at Birmingham City University, who believes in things like white psychosis and all of this stuff, and is very vocal about saying that on national television. They will then see stuff about white privilege being real. They will then be told that they have to be anti-racist, and then they can go and read things about Malcolm X and George Floyd. And this is all on our state broadcaster's website there. I do think it's potentially quite dangerous, actually. But look, thank you very, very much. It's great to have you on the show. I could talk to you all day, but we are out of time now. It's Dr. Alka Sehgal Cuthbert there, who is the director of Don't Divide Us. Get your views coming in on that. I'll go to the inbox shortly, gbviews@gbnews.com. But